Ever stop dead in the middle of a grocery aisle, look down at your cart and wonder, why am I buying exactly this, exactly here, right now? I mean, it feels like a completely independent, almost random personal choice, right? Well, actually, it's not. Author and researcher Oluyomi Ola David reveals that there are absolutely invisible economic forces dictating our everyday grocery runs. In her really fascinating research on household purchasing models, she breaks down the hidden mechanics and the actual equations behind how we stock our homes. Seriously, I want you to reflect on your own habits for a second. Why do you shop the way you do? Do you buy in bulk once a month? Do you just grab what you need for the day on your way home from work? Or maybe you rely entirely on a delivery app now. You might think it's just a matter of personal preference or, just what you grew up doing, but Ola David argues it's actually a highly predictable economic model. She suggests that we're all often totally unconsciously solving complex logistical equations every single time we restock our pantry. Okay, let's dive into this and look at the specific hidden forces she identified that shape our every purchasing decision. So, Force 1, income and shopping styles. According to her analysis, the size of your budget is literally the single most powerful predictor of your purchasing model. She segments households into very distinct categories, showing that the amount of money you have doesn't just dictate what you buy, it dictates the very methodology of how you buy it. For middle and upper income households, she points out that these groups have the larger financial outlays required to make bulk purchases. And by doing this, they effectively escape the vagaries of price fluctuations. Think about it. If you have the upfront capital to buy a 6-month supply of household essentials, tomorrow's inflation spike doesn't really hurt you today. You've essentially created a personal inflation hedge. But for the low-income class, which she notes often includes daily wage earners, the model is strictly buy as you go. Because they lack the upfront capital to bulk buy, she highlights the really sad reality that these households inevitably bear the immediate brunt of rising food prices and sudden commodity shocks. It's a stark contrast in economic vulnerability, and it's built entirely around the purchasing mechanism itself. Moving on to Force 2, the time factor. Now, what's really interesting about this is that money isn't the only currency we spend when we shop. Ola David highlights how the literal clock on the wall heavily impacts what ends up in our carts, and more importantly, how it actually gets there. For what she calls time-poor householders, the traditional market run is just way too stress-inducing and time-consuming. If you're a professional prioritizing high-value or income-generating activities, the opportunity cost of spending 2 hours navigating crowded supermarket aisles is simply too high. So what's the solution? Well, she identifies 2 specific time-saving options: agent-aided shopping and community-assisted shopping. People are effectively outsourcing their logistics. They hit a button on an app to have someone else brave the store, or they coordinate with community members to share the burden. They shift their purchasing model entirely to rely on allied alternatives, all so they can protect their most valuable asset, their time. Which brings us to Force 3, location and urbanization. Where you physically live fundamentally alters your shopping experience. Her data shows that the geography and infrastructure of your neighborhood dictate your purchasing model just as much as your wallet or your daily schedule. In urban settings, where you've got malls and multi-department supermarkets everywhere, shopping transforms into something highly recreational. It's no longer a chore, right? It's an outing. There's side attractions like cinemas, playgrounds, and what she charmingly calls merriment equipment. It serves as a great time out for parents and kids alike, blending the experience economy with basic consumption. But contrast that with local farmers markets. Here she observed incredibly smart, survival-driven behavior among lower-income groups living near these markets. They aren't going for a recreational movie. They're going for survival. She notes that they actually engage in cost-sharing cooperation to buy cheap produce in large quantities during inflationary episodes. By steering their cooperation this way, they share the costs, bypass the retail markup completely, and allot their vital savings to other essentials. And this local strategy goes way deeper than just teaming up at a market. To gain a real cost advantage, economizing households essentially build a corporate supply chain. Ola David brilliantly observes that these households actively maintain a directory of target vendors. They pull a whole network of price lists. They make regular comparisons across different markets. And finally, they choose the channels offering the least cost options or the best distributorship deals. I mean, this isn't just basic shopping anymore. It's high-level logistics happening right at the kitchen table to beat inflation. They're basically running a procurement department for their families. All right, Force 4, the pandemic shift. Of course, we can't talk about modern economic forces without addressing the massive global health shock of the COVID-19 pandemic. She noted that the virus didn't just change what we bought, it fundamentally and permanently accelerated changes in consumer logistics. Ola David mapped out a rapid evolution driven by the associated lockdowns. Let's move through this and see how this builds. First, There was an immediate, faster drift to remote shopping as people avoided public spaces. Because of that drift, Step 2 saw a surging demand for logistics services. That naturally shifted the model straight into Step 3, prioritizing doorstep delivery to radically reduce the risk of community transmission. And then came Step 4, which is a truly fascinating innovation. Communities actually mobilized market agents specifically for group purchases. Neighborhoods adapted by cooperating to hire dedicated agents with the capacity to facilitate bulk group buys. It was a brilliant structural shift that kept everyone safer, minimized exposure, and still secured essential goods efficiently. And finally, Force 5, the ultimate economic rule. All of these invisible forces, income, time, location, and global health events, are building toward the climax of her thesis. Ola David argues there's a single overarching economic equation that governs every variable we've just discussed. As she states, the nominal costs and real costs of choosing a purchasing model must be less than the economic benefits. Else, a switch in between available household purchasing models is imminent. So, the crucial point is that she views every single shopping routine as a strict, ongoing calculation. It doesn't matter if it's the real cost of your time, the nominal cost of gas to drive to an urban mall, or the actual price tag of the groceries themselves. For the economizing household, if the overall cost ever outweighs the economic benefit you get from your current routine, a switch isn't just possible, it's imminent. Human nature dictates you're gonna change your habits to restore balance to your household economy. Which brings us to our final thought. Is your current purchasing model actually costing you more than it benefits you? When you factor in your time, your stress levels, your location, and your overall budget, are you shopping the right way for your lifestyle right now? Oluyomi Ola David's incredible insights show us that none of us are just randomly wandering down the aisles. We're all active participants making complex, calculated decisions in the household economy. The next time you grab a cart, open a delivery app, or split a bulk purchase with a neighbor, remember the hidden forces at play. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this leaves you with a completely fresh perspective on your very next trip to the market.